Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pitch Side Podcast channel. I am your host, the HOD of the PSP. Of course, like, share, comment on this video, subscribe, most importantly, if you're new to the channel, and enable notifications to receive all the updates from this kind of videos and all the content on the channel. Follow us on social media. I'm at SidePSP on Twitter, Pitch Side Pod on Instagram, and you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform where you want to. There was so much action really on the weekend that we couldn't really do a proper preview now for the Premier League on the latest episode of the podcast. I mean, there was just so much action in across Europe. So now I think it's a proper time to do a good old preview for the next weekend of the Premier League action. Of course, it's headlined and topped on Thursday by Spurs versus Chelsea at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but there's also a couple more fixtures that are really interesting. It starts on a Tuesday with Sheffield United hosting West Brom in a proper relegation fight, that is. Wolves facing Arsenal, Man United facing Southampton. All of these matches are on Tuesday. Newcastle facing Crystal Palace as well. Burnley hosting Man City, that's on Wednesday. Fulham, Leicester City. Leeds versus Everton, that's a tasty one as well. Aston Villa versus West Ham. Liverpool hosting Brighton in a game filled with VAR memories, and of course the big main event is Spurs versus Chelsea. As we mentioned, Spurs versus Chelsea is the main event, yet the fixture has a lot of interesting prospects in its matches. Almost every match of this has a story, isn't it? On Tuesday, Sheffield United versus West Brom, relegation fight. Both sides are trying to, save their season, although for Sheffield United it looks pretty much a done deal that they're going to be relegated by May, so they will just try to save face in the rest of the season, try to get some good results, trying to make some, good tally of points. They don't want to end up like Derby County in the 2007-8 season, where they ended up with 16 points, I guess, or 18 points. I don't remember exactly the number, but it was a very low number. Anyway, Wolves Arsenal, that's one for the purists, I would say, would not love this one, because there's going to be I think it's going to be a little bit tense, and considering Wolves' current form and Arsenal's current form, it looks like it would be the kind of game that is really, really boring. Arsenal, of course, after drawing against United 0-0 at the Emirates Stadium, they would take all the pleasure in the world, I would say, in that point, continuing their unbeaten run, not losing against a side like United, who are good despite the obvious errors and problems that they have. They would take that draw against a Wolves side that are not in the position where they want to be, and not in the position where we would expect, considering the last couple of seasons they had in the Premier League. 14th on the table, very, very far, I would say, from where they should be in terms of aspirations, in terms of their place in the table. They were playing Europe last season. They are quarterfinalists of the Europa League. They're not exactly lightweight, but the absence of Raul Jimenez, that continuing absence of Raul Jimenez, is hurting them. And although they got the likes of Willian Jose as a centre forward, it doesn't look like he's going to be a good replacement. All the first signs is not given that he's not going to perform really well for Wolves, but potentially he could turn things around. Potentially it could work for Nuno Espirito Santo under his system. Who knows what is going to happen. Man United versus Southampton. This is a good game. This is a promised good game, because Southampton really play well, and Man United have all the potential to play a really good game. Of course, Man United saved face in the first encounter between those two back a couple of months ago, when they almost lost in the first half, and they were lost in the first half, both in terms of the result and in terms of where they were on the pitch. They didn't have the best performances. Then they turned things around in the second half with the introduction of Edinson Cavani from the bench, scoring a double and assisting for Bruno Fernandes in that game. Southampton are in a quite bad run of form at the moment. They regressed quite a lot. Remember, they were top of the table at a certain point early on in the season, and now they regressed all the way to 11th behind Arsenal, and it looked like they were, potentially vying for a European spot. They could still do that, to be fair. They're not exactly very far. They're 29 points, which shows you just how tight the top half of the table is. I mean, from Leicester City pretty much all the way to Leeds United at 12, there is only 8 to 9, 10 points at the very best between all of these sides, considering that there is game in hands as well, which could even tighten up even more the table up there. This is going to be a good game again. Southampton not exactly on the best run of form at the moment. Man United will try to shake off the couple of results as of late. The loss against Sheffield, the draw against Arsenal, which seemingly got them off the title race a little bit. They're 3 points behind Man City, who have a game in hand, and it doesn't look like like they would want to relish or relinquish, another game against a good side in Southampton. Really, Newcastle against Crystal Palace. Well, you figure that out by yourself. This is a game that is going to be boring as hell. The only thing that interests me in this game that I have Wilfried Zaha on my fantasy team, so I don't really care about the rest of this game, and certainly the only thing I would want is to Zaha to score, even 1-0, I don't really care. On Wednesday, and Burnley host Man City. Obviously, this is a game that Man City comfortably won the first time out. 5-0 it ended at the Etihad Stadium. They would want more against a Burnley side that just lost to Chelsea 2-0, and they are at the very at the lower regions of the table, 16th. They're not far from relegation battles or anything, both in terms of points and in performances. Sean Dyche, since taken that odd result against Liverpool and winning them, they haven't been that good. Not winning against almost an ineffective Chelsea side. Still got 2 goals ahead of Burnley. So imagine a Man City side that is doubly effective. What could get against Burnley? Obviously, I'm expecting a Man City win here. Probably another clean sheet for them, depending on the situation. This is going to be a comfortable score. I'm not going to say big margin or something like 4-0 or 5-0, but Guardiola is really churning out results and getting the job done. The degrees of how he gets the job done vary really between very comfortable, between grinding out results, but he does get the job done. And he's walking on a pretty right road towards maybe Premier League title again. And considering where Man City were in the start of the season, that's going to be a big surprise if they do it, because it looked like they are far from the form that it could get them title won, though they turned things around, and they're heading pretty strong at the top of the table. Fulham versus Leicester, and Leicester obviously missed a big chance to close the gap on the top of the table, losing to Leeds United at home 3-1 against the Fulham side, against which they lost at home. So it's like really some sort of traumatic also experience for Leicester, losing against Fulham at home. So and Fulham have been having the odd result here and there, drawn against Fulham, drawn against Tottenham, drawn against Liverpool, barely losing against Chelsea with 10 men. And, they could do damage to Leicester. If Leicester, enter the game not well focused, I would say Fulham could strike and could hit them where it hurts, and could take another 3 points off them, or at least a draw. Leeds versus Everton on Wednesday as well, and this is an interesting one. There's not a lot of points between Leeds and Everton. About 2 or 3 points on the table. Leeds, I still don't understand. I still don't figure out how Leeds play. What are Leeds this season? Sometimes they play good, sometimes they play bad, sometimes they open themselves too much, sometimes they tighten up too much, and the unbalanced nature of Leeds play is just mind-boggling me at this point, against an Everton side who just took a free fall from their early season form. It hasn't been the same. It hasn't been the same, simply. A couple of injuries, a couple of players been missing for parts of the season. James Rodriguez, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin. So pretty much an Everton side that is just scrapping, trying to stay in the main picture of European spots, because that is obviously their objective this season. Some even were tipping them for a title challenge, but losing against Newcastle at home in that fashion very late on, and conceding 2 goals and not scoring against Steve Bruce Newcastle, I thought it was one of the worst performances of Everton this season, and probably with performances like those you could not deserve to go through to the European spots, Champions League or Europa League spots even. Aston Villa versus West Ham, that is a mighty clash as well. Aston Villa, managing a victory, last time out, 2-0. They would look also to continue that good run of form. They still have a game in hand, obviously, against Everton, that they will play very soon. West Ham side, who are doing well so far. The loss against Liverpool, I think, notwithstanding, really. Under David Moyes, they're having a terrific season. So it looks like a game that it could be really, really enjoyable on paper. Liverpool against Brighton. Liverpool now back on form after the victories against Tottenham and West Ham with the same result, 3-1. Finally signing a defender as we speak. They are finalising the deal for Ozan Kabak, apparently, also for Ben Davies from Bristol North End. The talks are still there with Mustafi. We don't know if they're going to be doing that or not. It's just a late shopping spree for Liverpool, but whatever they're going to be doing, the most important thing should be that they get back Fabinho and Henderson to their normal roles in the midfield, because that is going to be making a lot of difference for Liverpool, bringing back Fabinho and Henderson to the normal places and just giving them the freedom in the middle of the park and have, proper centre-halves in their positioning. That's what people want. Against the Brighton side that just defeated Tottenham, and they will be also motivated, although they're just above the relegation zone, really. They're not exactly that far from the relegation scrap, though. Again, I said it a lot, I feel that they're not rewarded for their good performances, and they had another one against Tottenham, but this time they were rewarded. So, and they had a draw against Liverpool at home in a game that they were very decent in, going toe-to-toe with Liverpool, so the Reds should be really, really wary of the strength and of the tenacity of the Brighton side. And of course, on a Thursday, it is Spurs versus Chelsea. Mourinho's time is ticking, isn't it? His time at the club, he's having rough times at the moment at the club, and the game against Chelsea doesn't come at the best of moments, really, for him. He's not hitting exactly a peak of form, losing against Liverpool and losing against Brighton. I think the loss against Brighton hurts more, because the loss against Brighton could have been avoidable, really, but losing Kane, and still going to be losing Kane for the game against Chelsea, and losing Kane make them a different team altogether. Like, even sometimes with Kane, they look a different team and they could not defend. Now, imagine without Kane, they're going to be losing a lot of attacking focal points. Some of their, standards, the link-up play between Son and Kane is the anchor, pretty much, of that side going up front. They are a department on its own. Even whatever the support is going to be coming around them, they are the most important keys, really, in that team. And Son on his own, as a proper striker, where he doesn't find space, where he cannot move freely as he wants to, just like when he's supported by Kane, it just doesn't ring at the same bell. He could not play as a proper centre-forward on his own. Bale is not given the best of performances, and him starting against Chelsea is not going to be the best course of action. Against a side that had its first win against Tuchel, still having problems in goal scoring, still having problems with his attacking goal scorers, in terms of likes of Werner, Mount and Hudson-Odoi, although Hudson-Odoi is pretty much the best player in Chelsea over the last couple of months, really, with the direct runs he's making, the amount of effort he puts into games, and the amount of runs he makes, the crosses, the assists, the chances he creates. All of his movement is really good. Call it Callum Hudson-Odoi, but still, when you don't have strikers who could finish, and you have the problem in that department, it doesn't help against a side like Tottenham, who are going to be very compact. They're going to be all about defending and trying to bounce on the counter if they found any space. Thomas Tuchel, we saw his first couple of games, he focuses more on possession, so he doesn't really look like he's going to be preferring to defend. He looks pretty flexible tactically than his predecessor Frank Lampard. He can change the shape on a whim in the game, tries to understand the game really well, and for me, I would say Chelsea have more chance of winning this time than the last time they met, which ended in a very, very boring game. I will watch this game knowing full well that I think I'm going to be getting a boring match out of it, and I think I'm going to see the worst version of Spurs versus Chelsea in this match. Anyway, that's all for this preview. Like, share, comment on this video. What do you think is going to happen in the next couple of games over the midweek? Follow us on social media. I'm at SitePSP on Twitter, page SitePod on Instagram, and you can listen to the podcast on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform if you wanted to. I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP, and until next time, you'll hear me from me soon.